Greetings, Magic players. We're going to open another Commander box. This one is built from scratch. It's the red deck for Commander 2014. And I believe this has an artifact theme to it. So we're taking a peek at the Commander, and that does indeed seem to be the case. So here is our oversized card. Oops. All right, let's take a look at the pack. I mean the deck, rather. So it looks like he makes an emblem. It's tough. All right. So what I'm expecting is ways to cheat artifacts into play. All right. Duretti emblem. Whenever an artifact is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. We have mirror tokens. On the other side, there's Pentavites, so I'm probably right in assuming that Pentavis is in this deck. We have some goblins / goats. We have worms. One worm with Death Touch, another worm with Lifelink. On the other side, we have more goats. Another mirror with a Pentavite on the back. Here's our mountains. We have an Arcane Lighthouse. Tap for 1 mana. 1 mana tap until end of turn. Creatures your opponents control lose hexproof and shroud and can't have hexproof or shroud. Duretti Scrap Savant. 3 and a red for a planeswalker. +2 ability is discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. -2 ability is sacrifice an artifact. If you do, return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And -10 ability, you get an emblem with whenever an artifact is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. And he can be your commander. So that is a really good card, and it seems like he's geared around getting some basically graveyard matters with artifacts. Felden of the Third Path, 1 and 2 red for a legendary creature. 2 and red, tap him. Put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target creature card in your graveyard, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. It gains haste, sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. Bosch Iron Golem, 8 mana, legendary artifact creature golem, trample. 3 and a red, sacrifice an artifact. Bosch Iron Golem deals damage equal to the sacrificed artifact's converted mana cost to target creature or players. It's 6/7. Goblin Welder, 1 red, Goblin Artificer. Tap, choose target artifact. A player controls the target artifact card in that player's graveyard. If both targets are still legal, as this ability resolves, that player simultaneously sacrifices the artifact and returns the artifact card to the battlefield. And it's a 1/1. So you can get a lot of stuff out of your graveyard, and you sacrifice him to Bosch and then pull it back out of your graveyard, etc. Tuk Tuk the Explorer, 2 and a red. Haste, 1/1, legendary goblin. When Tuk Tuk the Explorer dies, put a legendary 5/5 colorless goblin golem artifact creature token named Tuk Tuk the Returned onto the battlefield. Dualcaster Mage, 1 and 2 red for a human wizard, 2/2, flash. When Dualcaster Mage enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. It's awesome. Horde Smelter Dragon, 4 and 2 red, dragon, 5/5, flying. 3 and a red, destroy target artifact. Horde Smelter Dragon gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is that artifact's converted mana cost. Warmonger Hellkite, 4 and 2 red, 5/5 dragon with flying. All creatures attack each combat if able. 1 and a red. Attacking creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn. Tyrant's Familiar, 5 and 2 red for flying haste 5/5 dragon. He's a lieutenant. As long as you control your commander, Tyrant's Familiar gets +2/+2 and has, whenever Tyrant's Familiar attacks, it deals 7 damage to target creature defending player controls. Bogardan Hellkite, 6 and 2 red. Dragon with Flash. He's a 5/5 flyer. When Bogardan Hellkite enters the battlefield, deals 5 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or players. Bitter Feud, 4 and a red. Enchantment. As Bitter Feud enters the battlefield, choose 2 players. If a source controlled by one of the chosen players would deal damage to the other chosen player, or a permanent that player controls, that source deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. Impact Resonance, 1 and a red. Instant Impact Resonance deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures, where X is the greatest amount of damage dealt by a source to a permanent or player this turn. Chaos Warp, 2 and a red. The owner of the target permanent shuffles it into his or her library, then reveals the top card of his or her library. If it's a permanent card, he or she puts it onto the battlefield. Volcanic Offering, 4 and a red. Destroy target non-basic land you don't control and target non-basic land of an opponent's choice you don't control. Volcanic Offering deals 7 damage to target creature you don't control and 7 damage to target creature of an opponent's choice you don't control. Word of Seizing, 3 and 2 red. Split second, untap target permanent and gain control of it until end of turn. It gains haste until end of turn. Magma Quake, X and 2 red. Magma Quake deals X damage to each creature without flying and each planeswalker. Starstorm, X and 2 red. Instant Starstorm deals X damage to each creature and it cycles for 3. Scrap Mastery, 3 and 2 red. Each player exiles all artifact cards from his or her graveyard, then sacrifices all artifacts he or she controls, then puts all cards he or she exiled this way onto the battlefield. Incite Rebellion, 4 and 2 red. For each player, Incite Rebellion deals damage to that player and each creature that player controls equal to the number of creatures he or she controls. So a lot of damaging spells there. Blasphemous Act costs 8 and 1 red, costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. It deals 13 damage to each creature. Apocryphite, 2 cost, artifact creature, construct, 1/1. It enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters if you did on it if you didn't cast it from your hand. When it dies, exile it with 3 time counters on it and it gains a spend. So this is a good target for Duretti to bring into play. Junk Diver, 3 mana, flying artifact creature bird, 1/1. When Junk Diver dies, return another artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Solemn Simulacrum, 4 cost, artifact creature golem, 2/2. When Solemn Simulacrum enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put that card into the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. When it dies, you may draw a card. Steel Hellkite, 6 mana, artifact creature dragon, 5/5 flyer. For 2 mana, Steel Hellkite gets +1/+0 until end of turn. For X, destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X whose controller was dealt damage by Steel Hellkite this turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. Wormcoil Engine. This is a good inclusion. Great card. 6 mana, artifact creature worm, death touch lifelink, 6/6. When Wormcoil Engine dies, put a 3/3 colorless worm artifact creature token with death touch and a 3/3 colorless worm artifact creature token with lifelink onto the battlefield. Mirror Battlesphere, 7 cost, artifact creature mirror construct, 4/7. When it enters the battlefield, put 4 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature tokens onto the battlefield. When it attacks, you may tap X, untap mirror you control. If you do, Mirror Battlesphere gets +X/+0 until end of turn and deals X damage to defending player. Pentavis, 7 cost, artifact creature construct, enters the battlefield with 5 +1/+1 counters on it. For 1, remove a +1/+1 counter from Pentavis. Put a 1/1 colorless Pentavite artifact creature token with flying onto the battlefield. For 1 and sacrifice Pentavite, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Pentavis. 0/0. Ruby Medallion, 2 cost, artifact. The red spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Jalem Tomb, 3 cost, artifact, 2 and tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Trading Post, 4-cost artifact. Tap 1 and tap this. Discard a card. You may gain 4 you gain 4 life. 1 tap and pay 1 life. Put a 0/1 white goat creature token onto the battlefield. 1 tap it and sacrifice a creature. Return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. 1 tap it and sacrifice an artifact. Draw a card. Caged Sun, 6-cost artifact. As it enters the battlefield, choose a color. Creatures you control of the chosen color get +1/+1. Whenever a land's ability adds 1 or more mana of the chosen color to your mana pool, add 1 additional mana of that color to your mana pool. Spine of Ish-Sa, 7-cost artifact. When Spine of Ish-Sa enters the battlefield, destroy target permanent. When it is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return Spine of Ish-Sa to its owner's hand. Flamekin Village, as it enters the battlefield, you may reveal an elemental card from your hand. If you don't, Flamekin Village enters the battlefield tapped. Tap to add a red, and tap it. Target creature gains haste until end of turn. Buried Ruin, tap, add 1 mana to your mana pool. 2 mana, tap it, sacrifice it, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Darksteel Citadel, indestructible, tap it to add 1 mana to your mana pool. Dormant Volcano, enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you return an untapped mountain you control to its owner's hand. Tap to add 1 and a red to your mana pool. Forgotten Cave, enters the battlefield tapped. Tap to add a red, and cycles for 1 red. Ghost Quarter, tap to add 1 mana to your mana pool. Tap and sack it. Destroy target land. Its controller may search his or her library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield, then shuffle his or her library. Great Furnace, artifact land, tap to add 1 red to your mana pool. Phyrexia's Core, tap to add 1 to your mana pool. 1 tap and sack it. You may gain 1, or you gain 1 life. I don't know why I keep on saying may. Reliquary Tower, you have no maximum hand size. Tap to add 1 to your mana pool. Smoldering Crater. Smoldering Crater enters battlefield tapped. Tap to add 1 red to your mana pool, and it cycles for 2. Temple of False God, tap to add 2 mana to your mana pool. Activate this ability only if you control 5 or more lands. Flametongue Kavu, 3 and a red, Kavu. When Flametongue Kavu enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage to target creature, and it's a 4/2. Beetleback Chief, 2 and 2 red, Goblin Warrior for 2/2 Goblin Warrior. When it enters the battlefield, put 2 1/1 red Goblin creature tokens onto the battlefield. Ingot Chewer, 4 and red, Elemental, 3/3. When Ingot Chewer enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact. Evoke for red, which means that you may cast it for its evoke cost and sacrifice it when it enters the battlefield. Spite Bellows, 5 and a red, Elemental, 6/1. When Spite Bellows leaves the battlefield, it deals 6 damage to target creature, and you can evoke for 1 and 2 red. Faithless Looting, 1 red. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Flashback for 2 and a red. Whip Flare, 1 and a red. Whip Flare deals 2 damage to each non-artifact creature. Mirror Retriever, 2 cost, artifact creature mirror. When Mirror Retriever dies, return another target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. It's 1/1. Mirror Sire, 2 and 2 cost. When Mirror Sire dies, put a 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature token onto the battlefield into 1/1 mirror. Bottle Gnomes, 3 cost. Sacrifice Bottle Gnomes, you gain 3 life, and it's a 1/3 gnome. Cathodion, 3 cost. Artifact creature construct, 3/3. When it dies, add 3 colorless to your mana pool. Palladium Mirror, 3 cost. Artifact creature mirror, tap to add 2 to your mana pool, and it's 2/2. Pilgrim's Eye, 3 cost, artifact creature Thopter, flying 1/1. When Pilgrim's Eye enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Everflowing Chalice, 0 cost artifact, multi-cooker 2. When it enters the battlefield with a charge counter, it enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it for each time it was kicked. Tap to add 1 to your mana pool for each charge counter on Everflowing Chalice. Panic Spellbomb, 1 cost artifact, tap it, sacrifice it, target creature cannot block this turn. When it is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 1 red. If you do, draw a card. Sol Ring, 1 cost artifact, tap it to add 2 to your mana pool. Wayfarer's Bauble, 1 cost artifact. Tap 2, tap this, and sack it. Search your library for a basic land card and put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Fire Diamond, 2 cost artifact. Enters the battlefield tapped, tap it to add a red to your mana pool. Ichor Wellspring, 2-cost artifact. When Ichor Wellspring enters the battlefield or is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. Liquimetal Coating, 2-cost artifact. Tap to target permanent becomes an artifact in addition to its other types until end of turn. Mind Stone, 2-cost artifact. Tap it to add 1 to your mana pool. 1, tap and sack it. Draw a card. Mycosynth Wellspring. That is tough to say. 2-cost artifact. When Mycosynth Wellspring enters the battlefield or is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Swiftfoot Boots, 2-cost artifact equipment. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste, equip 1. Commander Sphere, 3-cost artifact. Tap to add to your mana pool 1 mana of any color of your commander's color identity, which in this case is red. Sacrifice Commander Sphere, draw a card. Pristine Talisman, 3-cost artifact. Tap to add 1 to your mana pool, you gain 1 life. Unstable Obelisk, 3-cost artifact. Tap to add 1 to your mana pool. Tap 7, tap this, and sacrifice Unstable Obelisk, destroy target permanent. Dreamstone Hedron, 6-cost artifact. Tap to add 3 to your mana pool. 3, tap and sack it, draw 3 cards. Lore Seeker Stone, 6-cost artifact. 3 tap, draw 3 and tap, draw 3 cards. This ability costs 1 more to activate for each card in your hand. So the idea behind this deck is to cycle cards in and out of your artifact cards rather, in and out of your graveyard, and whatever the job calls for, Duretti is going to be there to pull those cards out of your graveyard and put them to good use. So it's kind of like your graveyard's a toolbox. It's pretty cool. Awesome deck idea and looks really fun. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know, and I am going to do one more Commander video, so stay tuned for that.